Hello, I'm Momita Bakshi Chatterjee, and joining me today is Aman Gupta, co-founder and CMO of consumer electronics brand boAt. He's an entrepreneur, he's an investor, and his stint with Shark Tank India has made him a household name. He was most recently part of PM Modi's CEO delegation to Paris. Thank you so much for speaking to PTI, Aman.
Thank you. Thank you for talking to me.
You had an opportunity to talk about the Indian startups. You had an opportunity to talk about the Make in India projects at the Indo-French CEO Forum. What was the thrust of what you talked about there? What were the key areas that you highlighted? What were the discussions like?
So, I told a story there. I was like, we're just 6 years young, and when we started, we were importing from other countries, and 100% of our import was from other countries. And in last 2 years, there is a total change which has happened, and now 60 to 70% of our products are made in India. So I was trying to tell the fact that Make in India is for real. People are looking at not just one country for their manufacturing needs, and India can be a huge opportunity for all the countries to look at beyond just one country. And that also eliminates the risk, geopolitical risk, which starts happening with manufacturing only at one place. And that strategy of Make in India, which is one of the flagship projects of the government of India, can and where there are aerospace, we are buying, I think we are the largest importer of airplanes, right? And there was a big push of making those products in India, making those planes in India. Not only that, I said even the smaller parts like the entertainment systems or the audio systems can also be made in India. Now we are second largest mobile manufacturer in the world, right? That is a huge testimony of what is happening. There are so many policies. There is the manufacturing policy, there is the Make in India policy, there is PLI schemes, there is incentivization at all levels, there is ease of doing business. So there is a constant and a continuous effort by the government to Make in India, and people like us are also advocating. We've seen it happen in our industry, and that can happen in across industries, especially in electronics. We've got a $300 billion target, right, in next 2 years. I think we are on path to doing it as a country, and we all should work towards making in India making it India first, and making it well.
World.
Making in India, making it well, and then I remember Modi ji one day said that let's make in India for the world. So the first step is happening where we're starting to make in India, and then the exports will start happening. So I think it's crazy what is happening in the Make in India world. In the startup world also, as I said before, we're going to be the startup capital of the world. There's so many startups, and startups are getting recognition from India. So I think it's India's decade.
India's decade and India's ticket as well. India, in that sense, you would say, has booked its seat at the global league tables with this. I wanted to ask you, how is the world looking at Indian startups? What is the sense that you got? And would boAt be looking at expanding internationally now?
So everybody is looking at India with a very positive lens. Look at how, I think the first time there was, after US president, the Indian Prime Minister was called for the parade, right? There was an Indian contingent. It was so cool that you see, my heart felt with pride, right? It was crazy when, the Indian contingent was marching, and, we all were like, in literally tears seeing that. It was amazing. It was, I had goosebump moments there. Look at how after Queen Elizabeth second time, the Louvre was opened for dinner for the Prime Minister and the delegation, and we were a part of it. It was just surreal how Indian Prime Minister has been able to market India so well. He's been able to get the respect, and India is growing at a very phenomenal pace. Look at the Sensex today. Look at how the consumer market is booming. So India, with the demographics, with the policies, with so many things happening for India right now, I think India is poised to grow, and the world knows that you cannot ignore India today, right? And we are a force to reckon with. So that's what is happening on the Indian front.
The second part of my question, by the way, was about boAt's international plans.
Both international plans are right now under making. Abhi, the demand is such that we are not able to supply to India itself. So we are putting our
You mean the demand is so good in India that you're putting all your bandwidth here?
yeah, and we are now, it was not easy going through our transition phase. We were going through our manufacturing shift. We're going through our company growth on a different level. We were doing too many things here. And for this year, our focus is not international. We are putting blocks so that by next year we should start looking at international. This year we just, what do you call it? We are flirting around with some markets. We're just trying to test the waters in different markets. But as a company strategy, not this year.
So FY24 will be about the domestic market. Yes. Can we say FY25 you would look at
25 and beyond.
Beyond would be international debut as well?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me the status of your 2,000 crore IPO plans. You had dropped the listing plans understandably due to the market volatility. Where are we on that? Is there a time frame you have in mind? And would you be looking at a new round of capital infusion before you get listed?
वो जो IPO था क्या हो रहा था कि everybody was going through an IPO phase, right? Zomato, Paytm, Nike, everybody went for an IPO and startup IPOs were in fashion, right? But suddenly the market was in choppy waters, and that's when we decided to drop the IPO plans. We don't need to go for an IPO as such. We can do that like after a few years also. So maybe by 25, 26 is what we are looking at. We are not like in a hurry to go for an IPO.
You would agree that world-class startups require gold standard of corporate governance. Do you think that the Indian startup founders now require to step up when it comes to corporate governance issues? Because we have seen a few cases in the past, corporate governance coming into the spotlight.
Governance is something which is very critical, especially when you go public. Governance is like most important. And if you start early in terms of how the corporate governance things work, it makes it easier. That there was a time when people were only chasing growth, as investors also were chasing growth, and they were ignoring governance. But when it hits you hard. So it's better to focus. Like Sameer and I have been focusing on corporate governance from day zero. And if you look at why some of our peers have never got funding, right, is also because probably our governance standards are much higher, and maybe they were not able to. If you look at our industry, there were a lot of duty was very high, and people used to do a lot of under invoicing, under billing, and all these things to probably get products, right? And that's the reason why they all failed during due diligence phase. We have never done that, and we always wanted to be clean. I love sleeping, and I don't want to waste my sleep thinking about maybe tomorrow morning there is an income tax or a DRI person sitting at my house where we've done some fraud. So
clean conscience,
easy life, keep it easy in that sense. So we've been very careful on corporate governance. Very happy that there's a time in every market industry where things change, and now is the time when in India people will care about corporate governance, which they were not ever. And it's very happy that it is happening now, because it will clean up the system, and it will make it very easier for the ecosystem to evolve in the future. And now these founders will also get worried on doing anything, and investors who were actually silent on knowing what is happening in the market and still keeping silent will also now be wary about these founders. So it's a cleanup happening. I'm very happy for that. Good for the ecosystem.
On the funding winter, harsh and prolonged, valuations have corrected. How long will this last, and what would be your tip for wannabe or aspiring entrepreneurs?
This funding winter term was used last year. अभी उसके बाद तो 3 season और निकल गए, right?
Mr. Amitabh Kant also used it very recently at start of 20.
Funding summer भी खत्म होने वाली है, खत्म हो गई, और अभी next winter आ गई, right? So I don't know what is happening in that sense on funding winter. When will it open? When will it close? But good companies like us, we raise 500 crores. I think good companies will still keep raising. It will not be a funding winter for good companies, and there is a lot of dry powder even with the investors, so they also want to invest. I get a lot of offers from a lot of funds where they want to invest in us. So funding winter is more for I would say companies which were not doing well. And it's also, I remember a time few years back, जब रिसेशन आया था तो 3-4 साल तक लोग रिसेशन ही बोलते रहते कि किसी कंपनी को अच्छी नहीं कर रही है और रिसेशन हो रहा है. आई थिंक what has changed drastically is funding mechanisms, or companies were doing loss making are suddenly feeling they're not getting funding the way they were getting.
There is more scrutiny now.
There is more scrutiny and there is more effort on more push on profitability.
Right.
So उनके लिए ये winter नहीं खत्म होगी. They will be, winter will stay. It is like now they are in Antarctica where there will be winter until global warming makes them melt. But otherwise it's over. Those holiday period, the honeymoon period of enjoying investor money is over. I think that when the Indian startups went public, Zomato, Nykaa, Paytm, and when everybody realized that ये public सब जानती है और public को बनाना tough है, तभी realize हुआ कि बस profit पे ध्यान दो. और मुझे इतना अच्छा लगा ना, क्योंकि हम लोग चिल्ला के बोलते थे कि यार प्रॉफिटेबल कंपनी है, तो लोग हमें जज करते थे प्रॉफिट्स पे और रेवेन्यू पे नहीं करते थे. कि हमारी रेवेन्यू भी ग्रोथ हो रही थी तो हमारे को ना प्रॉफिट मल्टीपल मिलता था. तो ऐसा लगता था कभी कभी इट्स एक्चुअली नेगेटिव टू मेक प्रॉफिट्स, बिकॉज लोगों को ग्रोथ. अब सब लोग प्रॉफिट की बात करते हैं ना, अंदर से तक खुशी होती है. अभी हम तो बोल ही रहते बचपन से प्रॉफिट की तरफ ध्यान दो. पर नथिंग रॉन्ग टू फिनिश इट अप. देयर इज नथिंग रॉन्ग in funding for growth, right? But it can't be sustainable. 1 year, 2 years you make losses, it's understand. बीच में एक साल आप growth के लिए invest कर रहे हो, like maybe we make losses in this year, next year, I don't know. But if you're funding for growth, but it can't be like your DNA. Your DNA should be profit. You can invest for some time, but DNA should be only profit.
On Shark Tank, Shark Tank has quoted controversy and there have been allegations about delayed investment and, inability to keep up with the commitments. Would you like to clear the air on that?
Shark Tank, it's done beautiful for the country. I think it's made it dinner table conversation. 9 बजे लास्ट मैंने KBC में होता था जब फैमिली मिल के एक सीरियल देखते थे, और वही शार्क टैंक पे हुआ है. आज आप बच्चों को देखो तो, बड़ों को देखो तो सास बहू सीरियल नहीं देख रहे, वो लोग शार्क टैंक की तरफ देख रहे हैं. सो Shark Tank is here to stay. Shark Tank has done well for the country, has done well for the startup ecosystem. It will do well. Now let me talk about investments. If you look at investments even to our company, when we first raised funds, Fireside. So I was talking to them since 2016 and I got funding in 2018. एक घंटे में people don't get funding कि एक घंटे में चेक दिया और वही चेक से फाइनल हो गया. There is due diligence process. There is. And when we fund companies, there are companies which are not even formed. They are, angel की तरह आते हैं हम. अभी तो हम कंपनी फॉर्म कर रहे हैं, अभी तो उन्हें प्रोसेसेस नहीं पता, ड्यू डिलिजेंस करना है. हम भी नहीं चाहते ना कि वी इन्वेस्ट इन अ कंपनी वेयर वी गेट टू नो दैट द फाउंडर इज एक्चुअली अ फ्रॉड, राइट? गवर्नेंस, वी हैव टू चेक वेदर व्हाट ही सेड ऑन द शो वाज राइट और रॉन्ग. It's not delayed funding. It is normal regular course of funding for every entrepreneur. It takes time, and it is good that it has happened because now season 3 is starting. I'm starting shoot next month, and I think it is very good that this has happened, that people understand कि बॉस आपने चेक दिया, आप कल मेरे को नहीं बोलोगे मुझे कल ही पैसे मिलेंगे. बॉस ड्यू डिलिजेंस होगा. 3 में अच्छा है ये क्लियर हो गया कि क्लियर होगा. हमने फर्स्ट सीजन की इन्वेस्टमेंट्स लास्ट 2 महीने पहले तक खत्म हुई है. सेकंड सीजन का तो ड्यू डिलिजेंस अभी चल रहा है, नहीं है. अगर किसी को लग रहा है कि वो इजी मनी है कि जाओ और यहाँ पे रिच बिजनेसमैन बैठे हैं 1 घंटे में ऐसे चेक, इंडिया में थोड़ी सी ये लोगों को मिसकंसेप्शन थी जो क्लियर हो गई है. मेरे पास तो लोग ऐसे भी आते हैं कि मैं वॉशरूम जा रहा होता हूँ और आ जाते हैं कि सर वो मेरा एक बिजनेस प्लान है, उन्हें लगता है मैं 10 मिनट में चेक काट के दे दूंगा. आई थिंक ये क्लियर हो रहा है कि भाई हाँ, पैसा भी हमने मेहनत से कमाया है और टाइम लगेगा, हम ऐसे नहीं फालतू में पैसे देंगे, थोड़ा ड्यू डिलिजेंस होगा. मेरा तो यही, that is going to continue.
Aman Gupta, it was wonderful speaking to you. Thank you so much for speaking to PTI.